Good morning.
Good morning.
And welcome, everybody, and especially to the folks that attended the workshop yesterday. Welcome. Today, I'd like to talk about this spiritual journey that we're all on, and how we can find our way along this path, and in life in general. Of course, there are no maps. There are no precise instructions that can be given. However, there are some suggestions, some guidance. There are some common experiences along this path. And there are ways of working with that terrain, of working skillfully with it. And I'll be sharing passages from the book Deepening Zen, the Long Maturation, Book 2, by Roshi Mitra Bishop. Let me say a little bit about her, for those who don't know her. It's a very long bio. I won't read all of this. She is the founder of Mountain Gate Sanmonji, which is in New Mexico. She first encountered the practice of Buddhism while living in Asia and began practicing Zen in 1994. Later, she trained at the Rochester Zen Center with Roshi Kapleau, so she's one of us. She was ordained by Kapleau in 1986, and in 1992, after completing her formal training in Rochester, she went to Okayama, Japan, where she continued to deepen and broaden her practice at Sogenji, a Rinzai Zen temple there. When she returned to the U.S. in 1996, she was sanctioned by Kapleau to teach. She is an accomplished calligrapher whose works hang in Zen temples all over the country, and a writer. So that is Roshi Mitra Bishop. And when she is referring to the long maturation, what she's talking about is integrating the insights one gains through Zen practice into our everyday life. Seeing can be difficult enough, but to integrate what one has seen into what the fiber of one's being is even more difficult and takes a lifetime. All right, so we'll start with a story. This is actually a children's story from the book Fables by Arnold Lobel. It's called The Mouse at the Seashore. It's not a Buddhist story, but maybe it should be. A mouse told his mother and father that he was going on a trip to the seashore. "We are very alarmed," they cried. "The world is full of terrors. You must not go." "I have made my decision," said the mouse firmly. "I have never seen the ocean, and it's high time that I did. Nothing can make me change my mind." "Then we cannot stop you," said Mother and Father Mouse, "but do be careful." The next day, in the first light of dawn, the mouse began his journey. Even before the morning had ended, the mouse came to know trouble and fear. A cat jumped out from behind a tree. "I will eat you for lunch," he said. It was a narrow escape for the mouse. He ran for his life, but he left a part of his tail in the mouth of the cat. By afternoon, the mouse had been attacked by birds and dogs. He'd lost his way several times. He was bruised and bloodied. He was tired and frightened. At evening, the mouse slowly climbed the last hill and saw the seashore spreading out before him. He watched the waves rolling onto the beach, one after another. All the colors of the sunset filled the sky. "How beautiful!" cried the mouse. "I wish that Mother and Father were here to see this with me." The moon and the stars began to appear over the ocean. The mouse sat silently on the top of the hill. He was overwhelmed by a feeling of deep peace and contentment. And that's the end of the story. What brings us to this path? Senior students at this center may be invited to give a Coming to the Path talk. Most of you have heard at least one of those. And in it, they share a little bit about themselves, what brought them to Zen, what brought them to the center. And those are on our website, by the way, just in case you're wondering. You might find the Coming to the Path talk of someone you know. But in these talks, many people will talk about a turning point in their life, maybe a crisis that happened that brought them to Zen practice. It could be usually a loss of some kind, a job, a romantic relationship, an illness, getting arrested. Others describe what Mitra Roshi just calls an inner ache. That was certainly the case for me. This is what she says. Most of us reading this have a relatively comfortable lifestyle compared, and yet we still hunger for some level of freedom. We have a lot of exterior freedom. Most of us have a certain amount of money or support that allow us to move about in directions we want. But as far as interior freedom, that's what brought us here, a sense of lack of it. And that is the ache in everyone's being until we found it. We fill that ache with all kinds of things, with travel, with interactions with people, with chasing food or chasing drink, or chasing drugs, or chasing relationships, or chasing entertainment, or chasing status. There are vast and plentiful ways in which to avoid that inner ache. But sooner or later, that ache breaks through, and we find ourselves caught in it again. And those of us who are on this path may have chosen, or probably did, chose meditation, zazen, as a way to relieve that ache. Most of us start practicing on our own, reading books, listening to podcasts, maybe trying a meditation app. And for a while, these tools can be helpful to get us started. But eventually, many people find that they're not enough. It's like having an itch and scratching all around it. And that's when people find themselves at a workshop. At these workshops, as you know, many of you have done them many times. We learn the what's, whys, and most importantly, the hows of Zen meditation. And then we're released back out into the wild to do it. But many people want continued support. They want the support of a community, the guidance of teachers. And so they start attending sittings with us, both in person and online. With that support, folks find that they're able to sit for longer periods of time, more regularly, because they have the support and the confidence. They can sit more wholeheartedly. And with that, something shifts. Something in us opens up, releases. We feel a greater lightness. And it can be pretty exciting. We finally found what we're looking for. But Zen practice isn't all roses. There are a few thorns. And I'd like to bring up both the roses and the thorns. Many of you have heard this analogy before about Zen practice being like a snow globe. That we come to practice with the snow all swirling. Our monkey mind filled with thoughts, emotions, reactions, swirling. No rest at all. And as we settle into our practice, this snow begins to settle. Our mind becomes clearer, more spacious. We get some relief from that ache. As the snow continues to settle, we begin to see the scenery inside that snow globe. We see what we're made of, our strengths, our weaknesses, our patterns, habits. The snow settles further still. Something even deeper can emerge. Layers of conditioning rise to the surface. Some old thoughts and emotions that we hadn't seen in years. Long lost memories can bubble up to the surface. Old wounds, confusion, fear, grief. And it can be unsettling. Now, we feel bad in our practice after having felt so good. And people will think that they've made a mistake, that they're doing something wrong. There's no mistake. There is nothing wrong. This is insight. Seeing what's there already. This conditioning is underneath the surface, informing everything we say, we do, we think. Underneath our awareness. And because it's so integrated into our personality, it's easy to mistake it for who we are. And we do. This is what Mitra Roshi says about how conditioning comes about and how it contributes to this image that we have of ourselves. So this is what she says. As we grow from infancy to adulthood and onward, our experiences condition us, and we live out of that conditioning, which creates expectations of the world we live in, our role in it, whether we can trust situations or people, and whether we feel safe or not. There are many events in our lives that can create conditioning. For example, whether we were loved and embraced and supported and felt safe as we were growing up, versus if we were ignored and our needs weren't met and we felt unsafe, or worse, if we experienced abuse. All of these experiences created a persona that defined how we interacted with the world. Here's another story. A man found an eagle's egg and put it in the nest of a backyard hen. The eaglet hatched with the brood of chicks and grew up with them. All his life, the eagle did what the backyard chickens did, thinking he was a backyard chicken. He scratched the earth for worms and insects. He clucked and cackled, and he would thrash his wings and fly a few feet into the air. Years passed, and the eagle grew very old. One day, he saw a magnificent bird far above him in the cloudless sky. It glided in graceful majesty among the powerful wind currents, with scarcely a beat of its strong golden wings. The old eagle looked up in awe. "Who's that?" he asked. "That's the eagle, the king of the birds," said his neighbor. "He belongs to the sky. We belong to the earth. We're chickens." So the eagle lived and died a chicken, for that's what he thought he was. And we too. We've formed a mental picture of ourselves. And instead of responding to the reality that's right in front of us, that's right underneath our feet, instead we react from the perspective of this mental picture, this thought. The writer Anais Nin said, "We don't see things as they are. We see them as we are." But there's good news. Because of how painful this can be, how restrictive, how we can feel boxed in by our conditioning, our attention is drawn to it. It's like putting your hand on a stove and getting burned. The pain alerts you that something's going on, something you need to take care of. And this seeing is one of the most compassionate things that Dharma practice does for us. However, some people will misunderstand what's going on and leave, stop practicing in search of something that makes them feel good. What they don't understand, what they don't realize, is that this self-image brought about through conditioning, brought about through thought, there's something we can do about that. We're not stuck with that. And then, when it comes to dealing with our thoughts, there's this language that is often used. Cutting our thoughts. Or no thought. Not thinking. And people, even experienced practitioners, will take those words to mean that we're not supposed to think. That if we're thinking, we're supposed to stop thinking. As long as we're alive, as long as there is breath in our body, there are going to be thoughts in the mind. That is what comes with being human. That's our karma. When you hear not thinking or cutting thoughts, it really means not engaging with the thoughts, not thinking them, nor pushing them away. Letting them be. In the Heart Sutra, we chanted the Prajnaparamita just before Teisho. And there's this line, our thought now being no thought, our dancing and songs are the voice of the Dharma. So no thought doesn't mean that our minds are blank, that we have stopped all of our thoughts. It means we're so completely present with what is in this moment that our thoughts don't pull us away. We're absorbed. To get a sense of no thought, here's a personal story. So, I was 19 years old and buying my first car. Now, my brother and my dad and my boyfriend all offered to go to the car lot with me to help me pick out a car. No way. I was independent. I'm a big girl now. I could do things all by myself. No, thank you. I had no idea what I was doing. I went to the car lot, and I saw this cute little Toyota Corolla. I went over, kicked the tires, because that's what you do, right? And I had them open up the hood. Everything seemed okay to me. Everything was... I took it for a test drive. I didn't hear anything that sounded wrong. It smelled nice. It was clean inside. So I signed the papers and I bought that car. 2 weeks later, I was broken down on the side of the road. And that was one of many breakdowns to come. In the year or so that I owned that car, I think it spent more time on the side of the road or in a parking lot somewhere while I saved up money to get it fixed than I spent driving it. So I had a car. You know, you could see it there on the side of the road. And I had the car payments to prove I had a car. But because it didn't function as a car, and I no longer trusted it to function as a car, it was as if I had no car at all. So my cute little Toyota Corolla was a car that was a no car. It's the same when we're not attending to our random, irrelevant thoughts. They're there, but they're not there. And when we are free of thought, then our dancing and songs, no matter what we do, the voice of the Dharma. Doesn't mean that that the thoughts aren't there. We're not pulled around by them. We're not enslaved to them. They don't tell us what to do. This is what in Zen is meant by freedom. It's not so much the freedom to do what we want to do, but it's freedom from being hooked, from being dragged around by our thoughts. Free from clinging to notions about ourselves, notions about each other. Another thorn in our rose. With all of that letting go, with all of that not clinging, fear can arise. There are some who have described the fear of falling into the void. That's not going to happen, by the way. And then there's this other one. That's fear of freedom itself. So here's how it sounds. If I let go of my thoughts and who I think I am, if I let go of what has guided my life, how will I function? How will I know what to do? How will I be safe? I think it's a kind of like being okay with swimming in a swimming pool or swimming in the pond at Chapin Mill, but being afraid to swim in the ocean where there's no edges. Just vastness. Nothing to hold on to for security. However, I'd like to say that when we let go, when we're not clinging, a deeper intelligence emerges. It's always been there. It's just we've been swimming in thoughts, clouding our vision. This is a deeper I intelligence, big I. We can be guided by this inner sense of what is appropriate in each moment, rather than our rules, our habits, our patterns, our conditioning. And this appropriateness isn't so much what's appropriate by societal standards, but what's appropriate to the moment. Not what we want to do, but what the moment says needs to be done. What I'm talking about here is not like woo-woo or mystical. It's being intimate with what's right in front of us. Here's what Mitra Roshi says about that. We instinctively sense where to move next, what to do next, how to speak next, and it's not driven by ideas. It's a natural flow with the process of being, and it's always right. In my experience, it's always right. Now, when she says it's always right, I don't think that she's saying it's right versus wrong. I don't think that she's speaking in that kind of duality. I think she's saying something that's closer to like what we hear in the Eightfold Path, like right speech, right action, right livelihood, all those rights. They're not right as opposed to wrong. They are more right as in whole and complete, all inclusive. In our workshops and in other settings, we talk about some of the benefits of Zen practice. Increased concentration, that's a really nice one. Increased focus. Decreased stress. Stress often comes from a mind that's divided. Body doing one thing and the mind doing something else. Greater equanimity being another benefit. Our emotions are more even. Our lows are not so low and our highs aren't so high. Another big benefit of Zen practice is a broadened perspective. Seeing a bigger picture. This picture comes about through intuition. This practice cultivates intuition. This knowing without having to think. Now, thinking is a wonderful tool. The intellect is useful. But like a hammer, we don't need to use our intellect for everything. So when Michu Roshi says, we instinctively sense where to move next, what to do next, how to speak next, and it's not driven by ideas. This is what she's talking about. Intuition. In one of her books, she says that students of Roshi Kapleau had thought that Kapleau could read their minds. I've heard people say that about Bodhin Roshi, and I've wondered. And I am absolutely certain that Bodhin and Kapleau could read people's minds. Not in the sense that we normally think of hearing someone's thoughts. But remember, body and mind are not two. Whatever is going on in the mind will be reflected in the body. So Roshi Kapleau and Bodhin Roshi can read the body minds, the way that their students walked, whether their voice came from the throat or from the gut, the steadiness of their gaze, whether their shoulders were up around their ears like earmuffs or relaxed, whether there was tension in the face or not. This is something we've all experienced, especially with people that are close to us. At a glance, we can see when they walk through the door what their day was like, without them saying a word. When we are fully present, we pick up these subtle cues. We perceive not with just our eyes, but with our whole bodies. We see a bigger picture. Our perspective is broadened. In one of the koans, in the Mumonkan, in the commentary, there is this line: if you listen with your ear, it's hard to hear truly. If you hear with your eye, then you are intimate at last. Another benefit of Zen meditation that goes along with this broadened perspective is that there are more options available to us for how to respond. We've gotten out of the way. What we want, what we feel, what our opinions are, what our baggage is no longer applicable. Our actions, our responses are more skillful because they're appropriate to the moment. And it comes without hesitation, without wobbling, with this sureness. Mitra Roshi says this: when we experience that total presence, the normal yada yada, that background noise in our mind, the need to plan and think is gone, at least temporarily. Instead, from that state of mind can arise without hindrance a clear direction to move in. When we have experienced deeply enough that state of profound presence, we are later able, even in the midst of the work of the long maturation, to drop into it at will. When we do drop in, whatever direction we need to move in is naturally, wordlessly revealed. There's a sense within us that says, but not with words, go this direction. And when we move in that direction, in my experience at least, it works 100% of the time. It may not be what we expect. It may not be in the direction we assume we ought to go in or want to go in. But if we go with it, it's always right. There is this ancient traditional skill called wayfinding. It was used for thousands of years before the invention of navigational instruments. Wayfinding uses whatever is at hand, whatever is in the environment, the sun, the stars, landmarks, the feel of the wind, the shape of the land, even how trees lean and where moss grows on them. And today there's a revival going on of revitalizing and spreading wayfinding for long distance ocean voyages. It's open ocean. No shore anywhere in sight. And wayfinding and Zen are very similar. This practice, this life practice. We learn to navigate this life of ours, not through our thoughts, through our concepts, our ideas, but from this moment. And just as there's no fixed path in the ocean, there isn't one in life either. And we can't make one happen. All we can do is stay open and present to what is, and let our inner compass reveal what we need to do next. Our inner compass is the one navigational tool that we can depend on. As Mitra Roshi says, it's always right. It's always right. Some final words from Zen Master Dogen. In your meditation, you yourself are the mirror reflecting the solution of your problems. The human mind has absolute freedom within its true nature. You can attain your freedom intuitively. Do not work for freedom. Rather, allow the practice itself to be liberation. All right. Our time is up. We'll stop now and recite the 4 vows.